Okay.
The fact that hecklers are still a thing is proof that society is a failure. I don't know why we still allow them to exist. I have a good way of dealing with them, though. Whenever we get a heckler that's too bad, I mean, it's really bad, I motion to the other assistants and they notify the magician. And they invite the heckler up on stage to help us with our next act. So I bring out a specially made tall box, and the magician announces that he is going to make the heckler disappear. We put them in the box. We wrap the box up with chains, and we wheel it off stage. The
Oh.
audience loves it. They laugh, they clap. The heckler's never heard from again. Works great. Then backstage, I feed the heckler to my alligators. I don't have alligators. Box only opens one way. I push it up against an exit door, and when the heckler opens it, they can only leave. I've gotten exactly 2 negative Yelp reviews. Worth it. No one ever uses real magic in their magic act. It's all parlor tricks and very bendy assistants who can fit into small spaces. Machinery. Audiences just like to pretend it's real. If anybody ever came out and started performing sorcery or blood magic, the audience would lose their mind.
Okay, it's doing a lot of freezing, chat. If like I said, if it blacks out like that again, I'm just gonna call it. So, cause
Every aspect of our society has failed. Look at politics. We live in a democracy that is so divided, no matter who gets elected, half of the population is going to be miserable and angry.
true,
Families are divided, lifelong friendships are torn apart.
true. That is
We are
true.
so at odds right now that left and right Twix don't even come in the same package anymore. They say human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry, and I want to know how they know that. Are human traffickers reporting income tax, or are they just making up numbers?
They just making up numbers, sis.
You can buy anything if you know where to look. I used to buy weed on the dark web before it was legal. I know there are people who buy fake IDs on the internet. Anything. You can find it.
Oh,
Oh, I know weed is legal now, but back before it was, everybody would smoke it anyway.
true.
You know, it was just one of those crimes you never got in trouble for. Like speeding or practicing medicine without a license. Oh, I never had a fake ID. I grew up in a small town. It would have been pointless. Everybody knew everybody else anyway.
Uh,
And really, the only reason to have a fake ID is so that you can buy beer before you're old enough. And I don't drink. I did buy a lot of beer for other kids when I was in high school, though. I mean, sort of. I would buy the non alcoholic beer, and then I would peel the labels off, and I printed my own, put something, generic and fancy sounding. And then, during study hall, I would just sell it at a drastic markup. Nobody ever called me out on it. I don't think they ever figured it out. I even remember hearing some of the kids brag about how much beer they were able to consume.
okay. The
Oh, they
story
must
is
have been very shocked when they attended their first college party.
like, damn. Why is her shit so long?
The sale of human organs is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And who do you think is taking those organs out of the people who lose them and putting them into the people who need them? I doubt it's someone practicing with a license. But I'm not doing it. I am not involved in that industry. I dabble in taxidermy, but I am not skilled enough to take a kidney out of someone and put it in someone else and have one of them live. Taxidermy is a hobby of mine. Whenever I find a dead animal, I take it home and I stuff it. And then I save them, and when I have enough of them collected, I take them to dying children in the children's hospital. Because children love stuffed animals.
I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. Why are they having so many questions for her, man?
Yeah, I ask them to draw me a picture, and then I trade them for one of the stuffed animals. It makes them feel better to barter. No one wants to be pitied, just given stuff. Even kids dying of cancer. I save all the pictures they give me. They say that a piece of art at least doubles in value once the artist dies, and I'm sure their parents will pay top dollar in about a decade. I think everyone should have hobbies. I like
trust the living.
And sensory deprivation. I made my own sensory deprivation tank once. I like to lie in it and be alone with my thought. It's very peaceful in there. I slept in it once. It's like sleeping in a coffin. People don't barter enough these days. They don't haggle enough either. For instance, if someone has a poster for a lost pet and they offer a $100 reward, now in my experience, most people would just take the $100 and be happy. I try to haggle a little. I'll go for at least $150. I mean, no one posts their best offer on a flyer that's going on a telephone pole. Yeah. I return lost pets to their owners as a side hustle. See, whenever I see a flyer that has a reward offered and a phone number, I take it down.
Keywords,
and
reward
then
offer, and a phone
flyer
number.
With my phone number, and I offer half the reward. Then someone else finds the pet, returns it to me.
Oh.
Then I do a nice little markup, call the original phone number, and reunite the pet with its parent for a profit. Does very well.
Okay.
Have you ever tried sleeping in a coffin? It's relaxing. It's cozy. There's extra layers of noise insulation in case you have loud neighbors. I slept in one back when I had college roommates.
Why do we need to know about college?
Oh, I didn't actually go to college, but I lived in student housing after high school.
Whoa.
See, you don't actually have to be a student to live there. I hated having roommates, but it's all I could afford. I bought my own place as soon as I could, but they kicked me out.
How'd they kick you out?
I bought a burial plot. No one told me I wasn't allowed to move in until I was dead. That is a stupid rule. I should have sued them. But they agreed to give me my money back as long as I took my coffin and left.
All right.
High school is awful. I mean, you undergo years of traumatic experiences, and then when you finally escape, they invite you back for a reunion so that you can go spend more time with the same people who made your childhood traumatic. I don't understand it. Do survivors of other traumatic experiences have reunions? I mean, do people who lived through a plane crash get together and reminisce about the turbulence they experienced before it all went pear-shaped? I've I've never been in a plane crash. I fly all the time, but every flight has always been incident-free. I guess I'm just not very lucky. I don't understand reunions or nostalgia in general. People cling to the past like it was the best part of their lives. But do you know what most people spent most of the past doing? Waiting for the future to come so their miserable lives would improve. Really makes no sense to me. I don't live in the past. I look to the future.
Okay.
I am so ready to be in the future. The second my contract is up, I am out of here. I am retiring to someplace very far away with
so
very
much
few
extra
people.
dialogue.
I'm never going to think about Las Vegas again. Can't wait for that. Now
Okay.
let's see what the future holds.
Okay.
Because I'm done here.
You saying the same thing. Oh, honestly, that was kind of unbearable with Ashley. Like, it was just so much extra dialogue for one person. Like, that was like, everything with her was kind of unbearable for me. It's too much extra dialogue with her, and I really hope Mallory isn't the same way. Because some of that was just extra. Like, you could tell she was going off script and just saying shit. Like, it was just too extra, too much dialogue, too much extra details for no reason. Yeah, yes, I'm Warren too,
What is
bro.
there to say? I guess I'm a little bit down on my luck right now between
Down
jobs.
on
I
my
had 2 job
luck,
interviews earlier this week,
back
and I'm hoping
against
to
the
have more soon.
wind.
I don't like
Try
to
to
admit this
make
usually,
it,
but it might be important
no
for your book.
way to win.
I'm actually homeless currently.
Oh,
It might surprise you that I actually came from a fairly wealthy family. My dad was some sort of hotshot furniture salesman, and my mom was a cable TV installer. We actually owned our own house. It was
okay, what
double
happened?
wide. But yeah, I guess I always thought I'd be a big success like my parents, and I guess it's just all right that they're not around anymore so that they don't
Oh,
have to see what my life has turned into. You know, I didn't exactly meet their high expectations.
okay, so I'm interested in the job interviews, but I want to talk about her parents for a second.
Oh, I've been an orphan almost my entire life. Yeah, my
Oh,
parents died in a fishing accident when I was really little. The only living relative I have is my Uncle Albert, but we don't really talk at all. He's been in and out of prison my whole life.
okay. See, look, straight to the point. Like, not
My
extra
Uncle Albert?
dialogue.
Oh, he goes back to prison all the time. He's
Why?
actually serving a life sentence, but he keeps
Oh,
escaping. I don't know how he keeps getting out, but the guards catch him and put him right back in. Albert is from the dark side of my family. We didn't like
okay.
to associate with them very much growing up.
Like, you see how it's straight and to the point? Yeah, no wonder why, she's not on anything we've seen, because you're going off script too much and you talking too much. Like, she gave so much extra dialogue. Like, Mallory is just literally just straight to the point. Like, I like that.
We were always a little bit ashamed to be related to Albert's side of the family, to be honest. I mean, I know that I'm not some great success or anything like that, but at least I'm trying to better myself.
Right.
Albert's mom was a lawyer, and his dad was a
Oh,
member of Congress for over a decade.
that's impressive.
It's like they didn't even try to have honest jobs.
Okay, so I want to more about, like I said, we're gonna continue on the family incident. So, but the job interviews is what I really want to push.
My parents used to take me fishing on the southern coast of Alabama. I don't think we were supposed to be fishing at the spot they found, but there was never anybody around to tell us to leave, so we did it anyway. It was really nice and almost like a real vacation. Anyway, we didn't have a real boat. We had just 3
Oh,
of those floating pool chairs that we'd like
now,
paddle out and just sit there and fish. It was really relaxing. Anyway, one day my parents caught an undertow and the current pushed them out deep into the ocean. So
Oh,
luckily I managed to get to shore, but it took me a while to find anyone for help. The authorities searched and searched for them, but all they could find were their pool chairs, empty. It was really bad, but I was placed into the foster care system.
oh man.
I wasn't in the foster care system for very long. When I was 9, I was placed with a foster family, but
Damn.
unfortunately, my foster parents died the first night that I was with them. A burglar broke in and murdered them.
Oh,
My
you
foster
seem like
mom
bad
was able
luck.
to call the police, but by the time they arrived, they were already dead. And the police couldn't find the burglar
Yeah, you seem like
anywhere.
bad luck.
The prosecutor on the case assumed that I had murdered my foster parents and even accused me of killing my birth parents. So he got the
Wow.
judge to sign off that I was going to be tried as an adult instead of a child, even though I was only 9. Luckily, they did
What?
find the real killer, and it turns out he was just really good at hiding, and he was in a crawl space under
Why
the
was he
house.
still there?
So,
What?
unfortunately, due to this legal loophole that in Alabama I was now considered legally an
Oh
adult,
my
so
God.
I was out of the foster care system and
What?
I had to find a job. So
At
I worked in a coal
9?
mine. It wasn't the work I wanted to be doing, but it paid something. And then when I was 18, I moved out of Alabama.
Oh my God.
I didn't have much money saved up, so I had to hop onto a train like they do in the movies. Only it wasn't exactly like how they do it in the movies because there were no big empty cars with those open sides that you could just hop right onto. The best I could find was a small platform that stuck out from the train a couple of inches. I was able to put my feet on that, and then there was a handle that I could cling to. I figured that I could just stay like that for an hour and then I'd be across state lines, but
Okay.
unfortunately, the train picked up a lot of speed and I was stuck clinging onto the train up until Detroit.
Mm.
Well, I hadn't intended on going to Detroit, but since I was there, I decided to make the most out of it. I got a job as the mascot at a children's restaurant. It was kind of a cheap ripoff of Chuck E. Cheese. And I had a costume that wasn't so much a cute mouse as a scary rat. But
Mm.
luckily, the kids didn't seem to mind too much, but I was only there for a little bit anyway.
Okay.
The first time I got my paycheck, I went to the bank and I was still in my rat costume. And unfortunately, 2
Oh
bank
my
robbers came
God.
in also in costume. So when the police showed
Oh.
up, they assumed that I was with them and arrested me along with them. I was able to sort things out at the police station and I got off, but my picture in costume was already in the newspaper. So my boss didn't like seeing his mascot on the front page of the newspaper for bank robbery, so I got fired.
Oh yeah, she's not getting it. Mm-mm. I'm not giving it to her. I'm sorry, chat.
My first job interview was for a job selling jewelry. I
Okay.
didn't have any experience, so they said they couldn't hire me. My second job interview was at an adult video store. They
Okay.
needed someone to clean up those video booths after
Oh.
customers used them. I also didn't have any experience with this, but I really wanted the job, so I lied and said that I'd been doing it for 15 years already in 3 different cities.
Mm.
I thought for sure they were going to hire me, but for some reason they didn't. I guess that was karma telling me that I shouldn't have lied.
Okay.
I wasn't always homeless. Actually, when I was in Alabama, I had 3,000 square feet to myself. I felt like a wealthy land baron or something. But I didn't have a house on the land, but I did have a really nice tent at first. It was great. I lived there for a full year before I could save up for a house. Well, not a house. I actually bought an 8-foot by 10-foot shed that was fantastic.
Okay.
It was just as good as a house. It had a roof, 4 walls, a window, a door, everything I needed. I don't know why more people don't just live in sheds.
What do they mean, Shad? Like, let's just move on. Like,
That was the nicest place I ever lived. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after I bought that shed, it was swallowed in a sinkhole.
oh, yeah,
So
she's not getting a
there was
hotel,
really
Chad.
nothing left for me in Alabama. I decided to chase my childhood dream and move to Albuquerque.
She's not getting that. Albuquerque? Question mark. I knew it.
Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to move to a big city. You know, one of those places that musicians write songs about? A place like Albuquerque. When I finally moved to Albuquerque, it exceeded my expectations. All the glitz, all the glamour, it was incredible. And the best part was the people were really nice. It was great. I'd probably still be there today if it weren't for the puppy incident.
Hold on, Chad.
A little boy had lost his dog, and the entire community banded together to try to find it. Every business had some sort of poster in the window asking for people to find the dog, and I actually came across the dog,
Oh
but
my god.
unfortunately it was already dead, so I buried it. And then I wanted to do that thing that they do in TV shows where you replace one dead animal with a new alive animal that looks the same. So I went to every pet store in town until I found a dog that looked like the dog that I had buried that had died. I brought it to the little boy's family and they seemed so happy. It was great until about 2 weeks after that when I found out the truth. The little boy and his family weren't looking for a lost pet. Unfortunately, they were looking for a dog that had bitten the little boy. They wanted the dog to see if the dog had rabies.
Oh,
Since I didn't bring the correct dog back, they couldn't
oh my
test the dog, and
god.
it turns out the dog that bit the little boy did have rabies. That's why he died. The story doesn't have a
Oh.
happy ending for the little boy, and I couldn't face the townspeople anymore, so I had to move out of Albuquerque. I used to work at the Bellflower as a professional gambler. That's actually how I met Mr. Davenport. His
Okay.
security guards thought that I was cheating, actually, so they brought me in for hours and hours of questioning. Thankfully, they looked through the security footage and saw that I was not cheating. They could have just kicked me out, but Mr. Davenport was so kind, and he actually put me in a room for a full week to make up for the trouble that had been caused. This is the nicest hotel I've ever been in. Oh, that was the wildest thing. I actually ended up here in Vegas by accident, but while I was here, I figured I might as well try gambling. It turned out I was extremely bad at it, though, and I actually caught the eye of a wealthy man who asked me to be a professional gambler for him. So he would give me money to play craps, and then he would bet on me losing.
Oh.
And we actually made a great team, and he made a ton of money off me. But the casinos started noticing what was happening, and they started kicking us out. Mr. Davenport was the only one who was really nice about it, though.
How did you get here by
Well, I didn't mean to end up here, but I was on a bus on my way to Denver, and the bus stopped here, and I got off to use the bathroom, but I guess I took too long because when I came back out, the bus was gone, and it also had my luggage on it, so when I
Oh.
got here, all I had was the clothes on my back. But I'm glad it happened because I had a really good time here.
Why was you going to
Well, I
Denver?
wasn't in Denver proper, but I was about half an hour away at this ski resort very close by. Anyway, I worked at the ski resort first as a ticket salesperson, but then I studied and worked really hard to become a ski instructor. But sadly, like all my jobs, it didn't last. The first time I took a group out to go skiing, I was supposed to bring them to an intermediate level hill, but unfortunately, I read the color coding wrong and I brought them to an advanced hill. There's a
Oh.
huge difference between an intermediate hill and an advanced hill.
How did you fuck that
I,
up?
of course, lost my job.
I know you did.
Oh, I've done it all. I've delivered pizzas, I had an ice cream truck, I worked in a pet shop, I even worked on a cruise ship. I've had some truly wonderful jobs, but sadly nothing ever worked out. I worked at a really fancy pizza place that had a big dining room and everything. It was great. Anyway, the owner, my boss, was trying to sell it, so the potential buyers were coming in to see it and to go over the books. The owner said that we had to look as busy as possible when they came in to make a good impression, so anytime there was extra space in any of the pizza ovens, we just started making cheese pizzas. I was given the cheese pizzas anytime I was making a delivery, and I was told that I needed to just throw them in the dumpster. But I felt really weird about doing that because the town had a lot of homeless people. So instead, I decided to do a good deed and pass them out to them instead. After the potential buyer had looked through the restaurant, he was being driven back by my boss to his hotel room, and on the way, I guess they saw
Oh
about
my
20
god.
homeless people with our very distinct pizza boxes. I don't know what he thought, but he didn't end up buying the place after all, and I lost my job.
Oh my god.
I got a job at a pet shop, but I only worked there a few weeks before I got fired, unfortunately. Before I worked there, I really didn't know anything about animals, so I did learn a lot on the job, thankfully. Anyway, my boss would have me open up, and then he'd come in a couple hours later, around noon. And one day, we got a hamster delivery, 2 hamsters, and my boss had left a note saying, put them in a fish tank. The thing is, my boss didn't specify it was supposed to be an empty fish tank, so I put them in a fish tank that had fish and water in it. It also had a lid on the top. Anyway, the hamsters almost drowned, but thankfully we had this machine that was pumping air into the bottom of the tank, so the little guys were really smart and they took turns breathing out of the air hose.
Alright, chat. I'm going to hit ice cream truck, but give me 1 second. I'm gonna go throw my plate in the trash.
It was a dream of mine for a really long time to have my own ice cream truck. I love the idea of having my own business, being an entrepreneur, and selling wonderful sweet treats to people over jolly music. Anyway, it took a really long time, but eventually I did buy my own ice cream truck. Well, it wasn't actually an ice cream truck, it was an El Camino, and it had 2 freezers full of ice cream in the back. So anytime I wanted to sell ice cream, I'd just have to park and get out and go around back. It was great, and I'd still be doing it if I hadn't lost my license. That was the most amazing job I've ever had. It was also the shortest. Unfortunately, the first time that we went
I'm
out,
back,
we
chat.
actually hit an iceberg and sank like the Titanic.
Oh,
Some of the lifeboats got destroyed, but most people were able to get on one. The rest of us had to survive by climbing onto the iceberg.
isn't that like mad cold? And why? Like, why did you making me ask some
After
retarded
the ship
questions?
sank, there were over 80 of us
Iceberg?
stranded on
Like,
the
yeah.
iceberg, and we had no way to call for help, no food, no water. So, out of desperation, we took off our clothes and we tried to form a sail out of them, hoping that we could ride the iceberg to shore. The sail we made out of our clothes didn't end up working, and it didn't move the iceberg at all. Actually, after an hour, it just blew away in the wind anyway, so we were just left
That was
there,
dumb.
half naked and freezing. Luckily, a
Yeah.
cargo ship came upon us, and they were able to rescue us from the iceberg. But we didn't speak their language, and they didn't speak English, so we couldn't explain to them why we were all half naked on an iceberg. They dropped us off in Quebec after a very awkward trip.
Quebec? Yes, Canada.
I don't know what happened to the other survivors. When we got to Quebec, we all just separated. Hitchhiking back to the United States from Canada was really unpleasant. Everyone only spoke French, and I was still half naked. Luckily, someone did stop, and they had a pickup truck, so they let me sit in the back, and they stopped 20 miles from the New York border, which was great because I only had about a 6-hour walk back to the States. I know they say you shouldn't hitchhike because it's dangerous, but the thing is, I've had a lot of luck hitchhiking over the years. The first time that I hitchhiked, I was going from Detroit to Albuquerque, and these 3 really nice dudes in a hippie van picked me up. It turns out they were a traveling folk band, and they taught me how to drive so that I could drive down the highway while they were practicing in the back. It took a really long time to get to Albuquerque because they kept having to stop for shows, and we did have to camp in their van every night, but it was still great. You know, I've met my fair share of famous people over the year, but this was really cool because they were real musicians, and we got to get pretty close. Also, by the time we got to Albuquerque, I was so good at driving that I passed my driver's test the first time. I met Orville Redenbacher at the airport once. It was awesome. He was in line trying to get his luggage, and I thought, should I approach him or should I not? You know, I imagine a famous popcorn magnate like that is probably constantly having groups of people swarming him trying to get his autograph. But anyway, I decided to go for it. So I went up to him and I said, I love your popcorn commercials. And he was really flattered and turned out to be a super nice guy. He even signed my cast. Anyway, that was in 1997. I found out later that he had actually died in 1995, so it couldn't have been him, but it was a really nice old man, and it was still a really fond memory. Oh, I wasn't at the airport to catch a flight. Sadly, I've been homeless a few times throughout my life, and one of the tricks that I picked up was that you can go to an airport and pretty easily find a place to sleep. I think they're used to having people who need to find a quiet spot because their flight is delayed or there's a long layover, so it doesn't look too weird if you find a spot and just sleep there. But there is a trick, and that's to not overstay your welcome. So after 7 or 8 hours, you gotta get out of there. Also, you should never go back to the same airport twice unless a few years have passed. You know, I found a few creative places to sleep over the years. You just gotta know the tricks. I wasn't just selling ice cream out of my El Camino. I was also living in it. The ice cream chests in the back were plugged into the cigarette lighter inverter, so the engine had to be running at all times so that the ice cream wouldn't melt. This made it really hard to sleep. Anyway, one night I had a few drinks and I was trying to sleep, and of course the engine was still running so that the ice cream wouldn't melt, and a policeman came over to see what was happening. I didn't know this, but you can actually get a DUI if you're drinking while your engine's on, even if you aren't moving, so I ended up being sent to prison. I broke my arm at the zoo. You know the sign that would warn you not to feed the animals?
It's too long.
Well, you should really pay attention to those. I tripped over one, landed on the sidewalk, and broke my arm. It was okay, though, because I had an appointment at the hospital later that day anyway, so I just had my doctor fix my arm then. Oh, I've been to the hospital a lot. I tend to get hurt pretty easily. You know, I've had so many x-rays and MRIs. I'm surprised I don't have superpowers. I've broken a few bones over the years. I've been in all kinds of accidents. A hunting accident, a skydiving accident, normal stuff like that. When you see people parachuting on TV and in movies, it seems like they're being gently lowered onto the ground like a feather. But I am here to tell you that is not the case. Even with the parachute, you're actually falling really fast, and impact can be really rough. I found that out the hard way. I was walking around and a skydiver landed right on top of me. Actually broke my arm in 2 places and gave me a concussion. I never saw the skydiver again, which is too bad because I'll never have a chance to thank them. Well, if it weren't for them landing on me, I wouldn't have gotten a concussion, so I wouldn't have gone to the hospital, and they wouldn't have given me an MRI, so I never would have gotten my brain tumor. They say there's nothing they can do for me, but at least now I know I only have 3 or 4 months left to live, so I can start checking things off my bucket list.
Well, that's surprising. I would have thought she'd be more
All right,
emotionally
now
invested in the
I'm
Bellflower
re-engaged.
after running her magic act here for so long. I guess I must have misjudged her. That poor woman never catches a break, does she? I don't suppose it would be logical to leave a hotel to someone who's not going to be alive much longer than I am.
Sure.
Well, I did not see that coming. I mean, I only considered Sarah because, well, she seemed like such a sweet, wholesome girl. I had no idea she was married to an older man who already had a wife. I don't know what to think about that. Well, that's disappointing. I guess there's no reason to consider them as potential heirs anymore. All 4 candidates have potential problems, but someone has to take over the hotel. I don't have any more potential heirs, and I've run out of time to keep searching. Now, you've spoken to all of them. Who do you recommend? Well, the only reason I was considering Sarah was because she seemed so virtuous.
I mean, she still is.
Now that I know she's in a 3-person marriage with 2 older partners, I see no reason to choose her.
Okay, well. Polygamy relationships, isn't that immoral?
You make a good point. I may disagree with one of her life choices, but I doubt I could find a more caring person with strong moral values anywhere.
Yeah.
Did you know that she spends her Friday nights teaching the homeless how to read?
Yes.
I didn't know that illiteracy was an issue among the homeless, but she's actively doing something about it. She's the obvious choice. Would you like to tell her? You deserve to be the one who breaks the good news.
It's no problem at all. We really enjoyed talking to you.
Is there anything else we can do to help you with your book?
Is there anything we can do to help him? He has no family and no close friends? That's awful. We'll be here for him, right?
Well, I have to be to work on Tuesday. Why don't you stay here and keep him company, and I'll come back after work on Friday.
I'll stay too.
The animal shelter and the food bank can get by without me for a while, but someone has to teach my literacy group on Friday. Can you do it?
Oh, I can handle that. Why don't you 2 stay here, and I'll come back next weekend. The more people hear for him, the better.
All right. Thanks, Daddy.
Where is Mr. Davenport now? Can we see him?
What do you say we go try to cheer him up?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sarah and her family stayed with Mr. Davenport until the very end. They brought a second home in Las Vegas so Sarah could run the Bellflower as per his wishes. They dedicated 1 floor of the hotel to housing the homeless full time, and Sarah uses one of the meeting rooms to teach literacy every Saturday morning to everyone who attends. Okay. That was pretty good. Pretty good ending. She still finds time to visit Utah quite often. Okay.
Let's start with our first word. All right, can we sound it out?
K.
Mm-hmm.
A.
Yep.
T.
Sit.
Okay, now let's try putting some letters together.
The end. Well, chat. So my thoughts, comments, opinions, and feelings. I'm only gonna play through this once because that was a lot of dialogue. So I feel like I like the concept of the game. I I like it, but it's too many cons that outweighs the good. I would give this probably a somewhere around a 4 or 3 out of 10. Ashley was really bad. Like that was really a lot of unnecessary dialogue with her. Um, with the family, the Utah girl, it was really interesting because I was actually personally intrigued by her interest in her community and all these different volunteering opportunities that she has and has provided to her community. Um, it seemed like a really loving family until I found out they're in a polyamorous relationship, whatever you want to call it. Um, which is what I didn't expect because she's such a young girl. I kind of feel like it's a little predatory because they look like they could be in like mid 30s or early 40s. While she looks like she's like 20 years old. So, um, I mean, I know some people like them young, but I just feel like that's a little crazy right there. But she doesn't seem like she's forced into this relationship, and she actually really likes it, and she values them. So I can't really be mad at her. She's happy. She's doing her thing, and she's happy. That's her life. So, but um, another con is that, like I said, well, not con, but the couple, the fake couple, the fake newlyweds. They were very interesting because they was low key throwing jabs at each other, like this, that, and the third, and they're not married, and that whole bit was interesting to me. Uh, Mallory, I I just felt bad for her the whole time, and then I started to get disengaged because I feel like some of the questions that the person is asking are dumb. Like, why am I asking Quebec? Like, yes, Canada. Like, hitchhiking? Like, yes, she had to walk to the United States. Like, okay, like, why? I don't understand why those questions. But yeah, so I would give this a 3 or 4 out of 10. Honestly, a solid three, I think. Yeah, a solid three. Um, I would say probably this is like the second worst interactive story game that I've ever played on a channel. Like I said, I really do like the concept, but it's too many negatives that outweighs the good. It's too much. It's too much dialogue. Ashley, you could tell she was just going off the script. Like too much dialogue. It's just too much. And I feel like it kind of wants you to pick the Utah girl. Like, because it's like no other viable options. Ashley wanted to retire. The newlyweds, quote unquote, lied so that they could get an upgraded room suite for free. And one just has bad luck. So they were literally the only good choice. So I don't know. I don't like how also there's no diversity in the game. Like they're all just white. Different types of white. Like you got the preppy white girl, you got the pursuing career white boy, and the rich little family girl, daddy's little girl. Then you have just a young white girl in a relationship with older white lady, and then an older white man, and then you have Ashley, who's just like a very edgy white person, and then you have And you have Mr. Davenport that's just the only black character. It's like it's no diversity at all. Like, what was that like? It's 3 plus 2, that's 5, plus another 2 is 7, plus 1. It's 8 characters, and only one of them is diverse. Like, there was no Asian, there's no, Hispanic, there's no, you know, European, it's no Italian. Like, it's no diversity in this game. Like, and I'm not talking about diverse, equity, and inclusion, DEI for black people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just diverse in general. There's just all white people here. Like, there's no Asian, there's no Japanese, Chinese, there's no Vietnamese, there's no African. Like, we have an African American, okay, but we have no Canadian. Like, we have nothing. Like, we have no Russian or Portuguese or Australian. Like, we have no variety in this game. It's just white and then one black person just to throw in a black person. So yeah, so true. So honestly, chat, I probably would never play this again on the channel. Like I said, it lacks a lot of depth. Like I said, the concept is really good. The concept is there, but you have to make them give shorter responses and not have me ask dumb questions. Um, and they need to stop adding on questions. Like, I could be like, well, tell me about yourself. Okay, well, I went to Clarence Middle School and I graduated from Charlie High School. It'll be like Clarence Middle School question mark? Charlie High School question mark? Like, bro, like, how about a more better question like where is it located? Or who was your favorite teacher? Like, those are the questions you would ask. Like, and then I guess it was more generalized is what they were going for, but I don't know. I just feel like it was dumb. Like, yeah, I traveled to India, Mumbai, India. Mumbai, India question mark? Like, oh, like what? Like, instead of saying Mumbai, India question mark, what did you do in India? Like, did you like it? Like, so I don't know, chat. But anyways, like I was saying, that's it for me. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Drizzy J Rod, of course. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys on tomorrow's stream. Peace out.